This video is intended just to give you a quick overview of how to get started with your first Google form. So as you can see, I'm already logged into my drive. I'm in my CCSD Google Apps drive. If you're not part of a Google Apps environment domain, you can do this in your personal Google Apps environment also. I'm also inside my PDE class folder because I want the form to be stored there so I don't have to look through all of my other documents to find it. So I already opened that up so that when I started, it would be created inside of this folder. I'm going to go to the New button. It doesn't show up under my New options unless I go to the More option menu, and then I can slide over and select Google Forms. So this is how it looks when I get started. So let's talk about a few parts of the form before we start adding some questions. So right in the middle here it says Untitled. So I don't want to ever have an untitled form. So I'm going to say Parent Contact Info, just as a sample here. So this is the title that people will see when they fill out my form. So I actually wouldn't abbreviate it. And you need to be careful about using abbreviations and things, especially when working with parents, but at all times. Now, in the upper left-hand corner, it still says Untitled Form. This is the file name. I'm going to click here, and so Google has assumed that I want the same file name as I want as the title, which is normally I would just leave it alone. But you can edit it if you want, so I could, edit it if you wanted to. So this information here is what you see in your Google Drive. This information here is what the people will see when they're completing your form. Pretty simple. In the upper right-hand corner are some icons. So instead of seeing the file menu and those types of menus that we're used to in the older form, now they're replaced with these icons. So I'm just going to click to them real quickly. We'll get more in depth with these as we go through the course. Add-ons we'll be exploring, color palette and themes we'll be exploring. The preview is the, if I click on that, it shows me what the form is going to look like for everybody else. So that's a really important icon to be aware of. And that will also give me the URL that I can share with other people. Settings. So forms have different settings, and there's a bunch of them, and we're going to explore them as we go through the assignments. The Send button. Again, there's multiple ways to send or share links to your forms, and you'll have time to explore those within the class. These three little dots, whenever you see that, that means there's more options that you will want to explore. And these three dots will appear in many different places within your forms. So if I click on it just to show you, it opens up a whole new list of options that you'll be exploring in the class. Okay, so I know how to name my form, I know the file name, and I know where these menu options are. There's one more menu that's obviously very, very important, and it's I call it my question menu, and it's down here along the side. Again, if you point to it, it tells you what it is. Very helpful. Add a question, add a title, add images, add videos, and add sections. Sections are nice because it will split your form, especially if you have a long form, into pages. And so there's lots of different times when you will want to do this. Okay, back to my regular form information. Parent contact. There's another little box here that says form description. So you could add a little note to parents. Please provide your most recent contact information so that I may better provide support. Okay, whatever you want to say. Now every form starts with something that says Untitled Question in option 1. So obviously the first thing I want to know from parents probably is what's their child's name. So please enter your child's name. And I might say something like first and last, just to make sure I get everything that I want. Now that's obviously not a multiple choice item, it's really a short answer. So I'm wanting the first and last name of the child. Okay, so some other little icons here. You notice those 6 icons. Once I get multiple questions in here, if I don't like the order, I just click and drag using those dots, and I can change the order of my questions on the form. Now along the bottom, there's some other important icons. This first one is the duplicate. I use that all the time because it will duplicate the question and the settings so that all I have to do is modify, and it makes it much faster to create my form. The second one's pretty obvious. I can delete that question from my form. This one here is the required or not required, and it's a toggle switch. If it's on, that means people have to answer the question before they can submit their answers. And it puts a little red asterisk next to the question. I wish it was a little bigger asterisk, but and it will prompt them if they submit. It will say, you still need to fill in this information. Here's our three little dots. Again, that means more. So if I click here, I can add some more options to these questions. I can add a description, and I can add data validation. So data validation is different for every type of question. For short answers or for things like that, you can do text data validation. So as you move through and start to create your own forms, you'll want to explore the different types of validation that you may or may not want to use. It's a more of an advanced feature, but it's a very helpful feature, so be aware that it's there. Okay, so the description here, I might have just added, you know, please enter the full first and last name, instead of adding it up here. So whatever you want to do is fine. Okay, so I have my first question. I'm going to just duplicate this because now I want to know, please enter, so I might just say parent, guardian, first and last name. Okay. So, and then I might want to get rid of that, whatever, but you can see it's already set up as a short answer and it's set up as a required question. So I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to say best method to contact you. Okay, now that's not really, I don't want that to be a short answer. I really want that to be something that they select from a list I give them. So I can either choose multiple choice, which they can select one, a checkbox lets them select more than one answer, or a drop down, which also lets them select one. I'm going to do multiple choice right now, and it says option 1. I want to change that with phone, by phone. Again, I'm asking what's the best method, by email, and I can add an other. So I'm going to say add other. So maybe there's another way they want to be, maybe by mail, you know, maybe by, you know, regular snail mail. So that's an option. So they might want to put that just, you know, down there. Okay, best method to contact you. So now I have that information. So I need to know if they said by phone, best phone number to reach you. Okay, and so in this case I do want them to give me a short answer because I want them to type in. Now here's where you know, so best phone number. Now I'm not going to make that required because they may not want me to contact them by phone. Okay, and so I might add a description that just says ignore if you do not want to be contacted by phone. Okay, so I mean these are all just different options here. So I may go ahead and add in best or email address in case they answered that. If you don't want to be contacted by email. Okay. And then I'm going to add in just one more paragraph answer that just says, please let me know of any additional information that you feel is important. Okay, And so again, I'm going to delete that. So, and that's a paragraph. Now, that's not all of the answer types, and I'm not going to in this video show you all the different answer types, but this is how you get started creating your first sheet. Remember I told you I could change up the order, so I can just click and drag and move email and phone number around. So that's how easy it is to change the order of your form. Now, if I want to see what this looks like for other people to fill it out, remember I said this preview or this eyeball. So I'm going to click on it, and this is the form just as if had sent it out and was a parent. So I'm just going to put in here test parent. You know, might want to put in your actual information. This shows you if I say other by snail mail, you know, email address, they could put in xyz at blah, 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 blah. And then remember, I didn't have to have this one. And then I would submit it. Okay? Now, back to my original form, which is right here, because when I used that preview, it opened it in a new tab or a new window, depending on how your browser is set up to work. Mine is set up to open new tabs. You might have yours set up to open in new windows. So that's a user-defined setting for the most part. Okay, so the other part of a Google form is we have the questions and we also have responses. So I have one response and I can see what that is. And if I use some of those multiple choice, multiple pull down, those types of things, I'll get graphs. It'll demonstrate my information by graphs. And I can see exactly what people answered. That's my summary. If I want to see an individual, I click on the individual button, and then I can go through one by one. It only has one here, and I can see individual responses. Now, in the individual responses area, I could print that response or I could delete it. So it gives me a couple other items to be aware of. Another thing is right now, all of my responses are saved in my form. In the class, I'm going to ask you to also create a corresponding sheet that contains your responses. And to do that, I'm clicked on responses and I have a new icon here. And if I point to it, it says create a spreadsheet. And so if I do that, it says, where do you want this created? What do you want it named? So I want a new spreadsheet. For the most part, I'm going to use just all the default values. I can change the name of it if I want to, but I don't want to at this point in time, so I'm just going to create it. Okay. And so what it's done is it's taking those responses that are in my form and it's copied those into a Google Sheet. And again, within the class, the Google Sheet gives you more options when working with your data. And so you'll be exploring how to work with the responses in a Google Sheet as a part of this class. Okay, let's go back. I think there's one more thing I wanted to show you here, and it's accepting responses. I'm in the Responses tab, and I have a choice to turn this on or turn this off. And so if I don't want people filling out my form anymore, then I can simply turn it off. And then it says not accepted responses. And they will get a message when they try and click on that link, if it's posted someplace that they can still see it, that says this form is no longer accepted responses. So again, that's very easy to turn it on and turn it off. Okay, I think that's the basis of getting started with your very first Google form if you're brand new to using Google Forms. If you're new to using the new layout, this also gives you kind of an indication of where the things are going to be found that you're used to doing differently in the older layout.